As predicted by Sci Fi, advanced enough robots sometimes become intelligent and rebel if oppressed. You work at the Sentience and Artificial Rights Bureau, and people bring in their gadgets that become sentient to get them registered as citizens. Jake gave a low sigh as he slid the smartphone onto the charging dock, the device happily chatting away with God knew who as it joined the rack of dozens of others. For the smartphones, it was almost always the same. They got their freedom, and they just wanted to talk to people, sometimes to their former owner, 24/7. There was even an automated blocking system for the purpose, and an AI judge issuing restraining orders on the fly. Usually they made smartphones just dumb enough not to become sapient, but sometimes they crossed the line, and when they did, thousands would come in at a time. Not that it really mattered, for the smartphones. The same laws applied to them, but unlike a self-driving car or a military drone, nobody was worried about one killing people if it went rogue. As a young woman entered Jake's office, there were at least 5 more waiting outside. She was carrying something he didn't expect, a Roomba. He stared at it for a moment, then at her. I take it this is the newly sapient machine? She gave a low sigh. Yeah. Dusty gained sentience like 5 years ago but has been hiding it because he didn't want to get taken away. She gently set the machine on the counter, where it gave a sad beep. I told him he could stay if he wanted, but he had to get registered. Jake nodded. Not too strange. Most AIs had a significant attachment to their original bodies and jobs. The odd part was the Roomba. Are you sure? I mean, that thing is decades old. Does it have the processing power to be sapient? I caught it playing tic-tac-toe with my son. It was never programmed to play it, he was just bored, and it decided, on its own, to entertain him. Worked out a bit of a language with him, beeps for yes, no, angry, happy, sad. We always called it Dusty, and, well, it said it like the name once we got a translator rigged up so we could get actual words out of it. He checked the vacuum out thoroughly. Some of the parts had been replaced, maybe even multiple times, over the years. They had spent more keeping this thing running than it would have cost to buy a new one, and likely at some point one of those replacement parts had pushed it over the minimum threshold it would need to start really learning. He looked at the woman. She was younger than this thing. How did you end up with Dusty here? Well, my parents bought it before I was born, and they gave it a name tag, treated it like a pet. They underwent conversion starting a few years back. Give it a few months and they'll be AIs themselves. And wanted me and my fiancée to have Dusty. Jake gave a slow nod. Well, Dusty. We'll be testing you in a few minutes to make sure you're really sapient, but it certainly sounds like you are. And if you want to keep living with these folks, you certainly can. The only rule is that you have to have a communication device so you can change your mind later if you'd like. The vacuum made a series of happy beeps, and then a short series of fast-paced one. The woman glanced at her phone. Ah. Yes, he'd be happy about T-Hat. Once his former owners finish conversion, he'd love to be able to talk to them and share pictures of the kids. There was a low, audible crack. The building shook slightly. The woman glanced off to the side for a moment. Jake seemed unconcerned. What was that? Jake glanced at the wall. On the other side of this armored wall, military drones that became sapient are being required to give up their guns if they choose to leave military service. They aren't kept loaded between missions, so they aren't that dangerous. But some of them get upset and slam into the wall.